Yo, 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 what is going on, everybody? It's another Right to Real Love live show. I'm your man, Jay Emmanuel, joined by my very lovely co host, Tatiana. And as you can see, we have a full house. Before we get into it, I want to allow our first time guests to introduce themselves. I know for some of you who tune in every week, you see some familiar faces. We'll also allow them to introduce themselves for anybody who's new tuning in tonight. But let's start with our first timers on the show tonight, the birthday boy himself, my man, Pastor K. What's going on with you, bro?
What's going on, sir? And thanks again for having me being a part of the panel. And what's up to everybody who's checking in on your show. Appreciate the birthday love. I'm actually 40 today. We're making 40 look young, and I'm glad to see another one. Again, my name is Pastor K. First name is Kenton, last name Wiley. I'm pastor of Never Alone Christian Center here in Baltimore, Maryland. I'm originally from North Carolina. I'm glad to be a part of the show tonight.
Oh man, such an honor to have you on the show, man. Thank you so much for joining us, Pastor K. And definitely happy birthday, man. Hope it's been a blessed day for you, and we hope that this will be an amazing experience to make your evening even greater. With that being said, coming over to our lovely first time young lady joining us on the podcast or the live show. I'm so used to podcasting, but on the live show tonight, my girl Amanda. What's going on with you, Amanda?
Hi everyone, and happy birthday again, Pastor K. That's like so cool. So happy birthday, and I really do hope that you enjoy this night. And Jay, thank you again for this opportunity. I'm super duper excited. And yeah, my name is Amanda. I run the channel Amanda Awakens. And I'm also a middle school teacher, which is very, very rewarding and so much fun and very exhausting as well. And I'm actually a Southern girl. I grew up in Georgia, spent most of my life in Georgia, relocated to New York. So I do understand that weather situation of the cold, the hot, more so the cold though. And yeah, I should be making a move in the next few months to Seattle. So big things ahead.
Oh, nice. Yo, globe trotting, man. South, the East Coast, heading to the West. Yo, that's amazing. Amanda, it's such an honor and a joy to have you on the pod. I keep wanting to say podcast. Y'all can tell where my mind is. On the live show tonight, I'm super excited. Yo, it's definitely going to be a great conversation. Before I come over to our next panelist, we got a lot of people in the chat already. So let me go ahead and show them some love. Tanisha, what's going on? So glad you joining us tonight. She says, good evening to the panel and all of the chat mates. Queen of Kings, what's going on? It's been a minute since we've seen you in here. Glad to have you join us tonight. Says, good evening, folks. My girl Krista is in the building. What is going on? So glad to have you joining us. She says, hey guys. And beloved G is in the building as well. Welcome. She says, good evening. And yes, happy birthday to my man, Pastor K. And we got my girl V Sanchez in the building. Good evening to everyone. She says, welcome. Thank you for joining us tonight. And none other than my girl, Nicole, my comfy couch, says, blessings to all. We appreciate you for joining us as well, Nicole. Now, let's go to our other first time guest on the show, my man, Troy. What's going on, bro?
What's up, boss man?
Yo, I'm excited to have you on here, man. Just introduce yourself a little bit to the people. Let them know your name, your age, your marital status, and how excited you are to dive into tonight's topic.
Oh man, first of all, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. My name is Troy Spry. I am 38 years old. Out of Charlotte, North Carolina, and so that's where I reside. I'm a certified dating and relationship coach, speaker, and author of the book "Teach Me How to Love About What You Don't Know Will Hurt You." Married, been married. It'll be 10 years in next week. It'll be 10 years. So I'm celebrating 10 years of marriage. 18 years together total though. So it's been a minute. So yeah, so that's me, man. That's me in a nutshell. So I'm excited about this conversation tonight. It's gonna get good.
Oh man, yo, it's a joy to have you on her with us tonight, Troy. Man, thank you so much for coming on and joining us, man. It's going to be a fun conversation for sure. Now, our returning panelists, man. Let's start with ladies first. My girl, Asia, what's going on?
Hey, everybody. I'm so excited to be here. This topic got me feeling hot already. So I'm ready to come in and share my thoughts. And I'm happy to be here with all of you guys. So happy birthday, Pastor K. You're not too far from me up in Baltimore. So I'm going to have to come visit your church, man.
No
So
doubt, no doubt.
happy birthday.
Oh yes, yes, yo, Asia. You already know our first MVP in the building. You know what I'm saying? So glad to have you joining us tonight. And coming down to my man, none other. Y'all seen him on the show multiple times. My man, CEO. What's going on, bro?
What's going on? How's everybody doing? Um, CEO, Mr. CEO Status 913 on Instagram, Mr. CEO Status on TikTok. And happy birthday to Pastor. I'm probably got you by maybe 2 or 3 years, but you know what? Welcome to the 40 Club. Hope you enjoy it.
Oh yeah, man. Happy to have you on here. And yo, I'm super excited right here because last but definitely not least, my man, the one and only MVP in his own right, black belt, my man Dojo Man. What's going on with you, bro?
What's going on? What's going on? I'm happy to be back, and happy birthday, Pastor K. And let's get it rocking. Let's get it rocking.
Yo, with that being said, man, let's do it. So, oh, hold on. Tiffany is in the building. What's going on, Tiffany? So excited to have you join us. She says, hello, Jay, Tatiana, guest panelists, and all my chat mates. Welcome back, Asia Black Belt and Mr. CEO. Yes. Oh, yeah, look. They excited. They excited for Dojo. They ready, boy. Yo, this is about to be fun, y'all. So tonight we're talking about traditional gender roles in relationships. Are they outdated? Y'all can see we got ladies, we got gentlemen, so we're gonna hear across the board what both the men and the women got to say about this. So I want to start things off with an easy question for everybody. I just want to know your own personal thoughts. So let's start with the ladies. So Asia, coming up to you, do you personally believe that either some or all gender roles, the traditional kind in relationships, are outdated in 2022? What's your take?
I personally do not think that they're outdated. However, I believe it's a season for everything. So in some seasons, the roles may be a little heightened than other seasons, but I'm all for traditional roles. I believe that God created roles for all of us, male and female. And I think society, we have kind of went away from it, but I'm all for it in seasons. Let me emphasize in the seasons. Okay. So yes.
Yo, that's fair. That's fair. All right. So coming to my first brother, my man Troy, what's your take, man? Do you personally believe that either some or all traditional gender roles in relationships are outdated in 2022?
Yeah, so I believe that roles themselves can be a little outdated, but I don't believe that masculinity and femininity are outdated, right? I just think that how we manifest those things have changed a little bit in society, just based off of societal differences now, and how people are raised, what people are accomplishing, things that are happening that's a little bit different. So I still think it should be rooted though in masculinity and femininity though, for sure.
All right. Okay. I hear that. And coming up to my girl, Amanda, what's your take? What's your perspective?
Yeah, I'm a little divided. I do think that, well, I'll say this. I don't think that any of the roles themselves are outdated. I think it's outdated the way in which some people interpret those roles and what those roles mean and how they should manifest themselves. But I also agree with, ultimately it does come down to what I see as masculine and feminine energy. And I agree as well with Asia that I think we're all fluid beings and we gravitate and lean into those energies at different times and different seasons. And I just think it's important in any healthy relationship that both partners can support that and celebrate that.
All right. I hear that. Coming down to Pastor K, what's your take? Are traditional roles outdated, some or all of them?
Well, I've been married 15 years. So I think it comes down to what works for you. Like in my house, I cook and I clean. Why? Because my wife worked the second shift. I worked the first one, so I knock out the homework with the kids. But she handles the morning stuff. So that works for us. I've never, even though I'm from the South, I'm from North Carolina. Yes, my mom cooked all the time. That's all I knew. I don't know if my dad ever touched a pan, but that worked for them, so I think whatever works for the individual and for that particular relationship is good to go. But when you go into the relationship, knowing what you like, that needs to be shared to your partner before you get married. So when you wake up after the honeymoon and there's no food on the table, you're not tripping.
Mm-hmm.
I hear that. Yo, before we come up to Tatiana, gotta welcome our other panelists, my man Andre. What's going on, bro?
What's going on? Sorry for my tardiness.
Yo, it's all good, man. Yo, we excited to have you on the show. If you don't mind, just introduce yourself really quickly for the people. Let them know a little bit about you, your age, your marital status.
Oh, all right. Age too. Dang. Coming. All right.
I mean, if you feel comfortable with
no,
it,
I
no
don't mind. I
pressure,
don't mind.
man. No pressure.
Dre, I have a YouTube channel called Harrison Family Values. by day, I'm an educator. By night, I do YouTube videos and counsel married couples. Um, I am a married man of 42 with 3 kids and 2 grandchildren. My oldest just gave birth to my youngest granddaughter, Sayla. So I'm a 42-year-old granddad. I feel weird about that, but yeah. But thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Truly an honor, truly an honor. So we're at our first question of the night. So this question is, do you believe some or all traditional gender roles in relationships are outdated in 2022? So we're going around right now. I'm about to go to my girl Tatiana, and then just to kind of let you know where we're at in this, Andre, and then we'll swing around to you in a moment. So
All right,
Tatiana,
sounds
what's your
good.
take? Do you think that some or all are outdated?
I don't. I think some may be outdated, but I think some of them have been outdated because of way the society is now. Like there's some things that have impacted how we look at gender roles. Like age, for example, people are getting married older, so that's a factor in how people choose to live their life and take care of their responsibilities at home, which they would normally like depend on a spouse to do for them. Now they have to kind of figure it out on their own. So that's one way I think it changed a little bit.
All right, okay. And we had in the chat, Beloved G says, nope, they're not outdated. So we appreciate that. Everybody else in the chat, definitely let us know what your take is as well. So coming down to my man Black Belt, what's your take? Do you think that some of these or all of these gender roles are outdated in 2022?
I don't think any gender roles are outdated. I think it's a function of depending on your personal situation and two, who you can attract, how much you have to put towards, I guess, elevating or de-elevating one or the other. I'm actually, shout out to my Carolina family. I'm from Durham. The, the I'm just gonna say straightforward. The ratchet chicks I know in Durham, they want the same things in guys as the ones who are like studying to be engineers. They both want a man who's, a protector, who's a provider, who's a lead. They want the same thing, regardless of what their like outlook on life is. Now it may come out differently, but I don't see it changing, and I don't see the guys really changing it either. Maybe they just have to prioritize one thing over the other.
Nah, that's fair. I appreciate you for sharing that. Coming up to you, CEO. What's your take?
I would probably have to echo what Pastor K said, but I don't think they're outdated. I think they're modified based off of whatever the two individual situation is to make it work for them. Like if they have to discuss how their upbringing was. Like if she didn't cook and he didn't cook, then either somebody's gonna have to learn how to cook or they're both gonna starve. So I just think that it's to a certain degree it's modified. I think some of it is just foundational and will always be the same just throughout human existence.
All right, I hear that. And we had one of our chat mates, Tiffany says they're not outdated, but dependent upon interpretation and based on individual relationships. Yeah, that's real. That's real. So coming over to you, Andre, what's your take? Are they outdated?
I don't think it's outdated. I think what Mr. CEO said was actually on point about it being modified. Everybody has a role to play in a relationship, and there's some roles that have been traditionally assigned to specific genders. Now, I think the real issue, I'm not sure if you're going to get into this, the real issue is how people view those roles and how they value those roles. So, and I think because we live in a modern time and a time where both men and women are in the workforce, it's the sort of like the lines have become blurred. And it's like, well, I bring money into the house too. So, why do I got to cook all the time, or why am I doing the laundry? And I think that just this modern day allow those questions to come into play. But either way, in a relationship, somebody's playing that role, right? And I think because of where we are today in modern society, the value of the roles have been diminished based on who's bringing money into the house. And I think that's where we get it twisted. All right, that's where we get it twisted. There's some things genetically that men can do that women cannot do, and there's some things genetically that women can do that men cannot do. And I think when we start comparing each other and start competing with one another, then we have these vain discussions about, are gender roles bad? No, they're actually good, and they actually balance each other in a relationship. And if both are functioning the way they should, the relationship grows, it gets stronger, and that's my position on it.
Nah, that's real, man. That's real. So we got a few comments. Let's see what we got here. So Nicole from My Comfy Couch says, it appears that many men still desire the traditional roles in women: cook, clean, care for kids and their man. However, women seem to be groomed to prioritize career and education more. And she has a question, and that question is, how do we get both sexes on the same page? That is a great question. I'm gonna save that to the end because I think that that kind of talks about what we're gonna get into a little bit later. So I'm gonna save that one, but I see it, Nicole, and we're definitely gonna come back to it. I promise that. So here's the next question, right? I think we all can agree that there are some people who are opposed to gender roles in 2022. And I want to get your thoughts on why some people are opposed to them. Let's start with you, Asia. Why do you think some people are opposed to gender roles in 2022?
I think some people are opposed to it, especially women, because I feel like women, over the years have been felt like they were put in a box to only be able to do one thing. And now that women have been a little bit more liberated, they are working, they are bringing in money, they are taking more of head of household roles, whether by choice or by force. And I think that kind of has a huge play on it. So women like, well, not saying I agree with this, but women, if you're just looking at men solely as a provider, which I don't think that we should just, men are providers, but that goes further than just financial, right? So if women are just looking at men as just providers, it's like, well, shoot, I can take care of myself. I can pay for things myself. So I think that that's really the fight that we're at. And I think Amanda hit a good thing is with the feminine and masculine energy. It's just, women are a little bit more masculine now, but I think men are a little bit more feminine now. And I just think we just all out of whack, but I'll say that for later.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah. I'm sure we're gonna touch on that masculine and feminine energy at some point in tonight's conversation, and it'll be good to go that route for a little bit. So we did have a comment that came in from Krista. She says she feels like sometimes people assume task and roles mean the same thing. She says some tasks are fundamentally male as well as female, but not all. So that's her perspective on that. So I want to come down to my man Troy. Like, what's your take? Why do you think some people are opposed to traditional gender roles?
Yeah, so I mean, my thoughts are simple. I think people look at roles as they fear them because they look at them as weakness. A lot of women look at these roles as weakness. My role is a weaker role. It's a subservient role. It's one where I have no identity. I think that's what society has fed women. They've also fed women a lot of times that their roles aren't valued as much in society, and I think that's totally false, honestly. And also, I think us as a society, we don't necessarily want to sacrifice anything anymore. We want it all. We want to do everything always, all the time. And roles come with sacrifice. That means you may not be, the king of the castle all the time. You might not be the provider all the time. You might not be a certain thing, and we don't like to put ourselves in boxes anymore, which is honestly, I think roles are good because defining things helps give structure, and structure helps bring peace to me. So that's my opinion on it.
All right, yo, you made some really great points. I want to come up and hear Amanda, a woman's perspective on this. Why do you think some people are opposed to traditional gender roles?
Yeah, I'm gonna push back just like a teeny tiny bit in that I feel actually that I agree, and that I do think many women feel that our roles are seen as less valuable, less worthy than the role of the man, especially if the man is the primary provider in that household. And at the same time, I think especially for Black women, it's really hard, I think, to let go and to accept those traditional gender roles because so many of us have seen our mothers, our grandmothers, our aunts, our great grandmothers, if we were fortunate enough to grow up with those women, we have seen the loss of their identity, of their femininity. Even in doing the roles that are seen as traditionally feminine roles, we have still seen those elements of them take a significant hit and just in acquiring those roles. So I think it's really hard when we're living in a time where I am so happy that I can get up, I can go to work, I can make my own money from my own hands and my own mind, and I can take care of myself. Like that is such a beautiful thing. And I can just say for myself, sometimes when I think of not truly like valuing that and just, I don't know, just being so grateful for that, it makes me almost feel like I'm being ungrateful towards the women that came before me that worked so hard to get us to a place where I can go, where Asia and Tatiana, where we can go and do those things. So I think it sounds silly to say it's just hard, but I really do think that it's a very hard thing and that we haven't as a society, I don't really believe we have equalized what the roles are within the house between man and woman. And I don't think, on the whole, the role of women are as valued as it may sometimes seem. I think sometimes the internet makes us think that things are more valued in real life than it is in real life. So, yeah.
All right. So, Pastor K, what's your take on why some people are opposed to traditional gender roles?
I think the pushback comes to everybody's not a team player. Let's just be honest. Okay. Some people like golf. That's a sport you play by yourself, but when you get into a marriage, it's not coach to player, it's player to player. And when we get into this traditional lanes of life sometimes it can seem like husband's the coach, wife's the player. And now he's giving the instructions that you better play so we all win. So, but marriage is a such a team thing. But as you said, traditional roles, they were traditional because of the structure of our society 40 or 50 years ago, where a woman couldn't make but $5 an hour. So she had to stay home to cook, to clean, and raise the kids. It had nothing really to do with that's what the man wanted, but that was just the structure of our society. But you can look at any of the modern day statistics of the hiring of income, and women are making just as much, if not more, than most men in most of your cities now. So it's not just monetarily being able to provide. So now the man has to take on roles that he's not used to, such as providing mental support, which all he did was provide monetary support. So it's a culture shift, not only for the woman, but also for the man. But the man is always taking pride in being able to come home to a meal. But the difference is when you came home to that meal, your wife didn't just work 12-hour shift like you did. So things have just changed, and it's just up to, I guess, the people like us on a panel who are around the same age. I would believe most of us are under 50, that we're going to have to raise our children under this new mindset, that everybody has to contribute to the household, not just mom. Okay, that's kind of like my take on it.
Okay. And with that, something that Pastor K just brought up, Tatiana, I want to get your thoughts on it. What role do you feel our culture has played in some people's opposition to traditional gender roles?
That's a good question, Jay, because I actually wrote a point about that. I think that oftentimes in our modern society, y'all know it, we're having these conversations now. We've been having these conversations about this topic on social media, and there's a lot of opinions on social media. And unfortunately, it kind of can mess people up with their own individual idea of what they want their marriage to be like, because they get caught up in mob mentality, group thinking, and they're just going with whatever everybody says. But when it comes to marriage, you have to be considerate about what you want in your partner and what you want out of that dynamic of that relationship. So I think that plays a part in it, because if everybody's just spitting out these anecdotes and not really telling the positive that comes out of being in your traditional marriage roles, then of course you're not going to think that is a positive thing. You're going to push back against it because there's not enough people who are speaking up about the positives about it, like the value of it. And I would say, like, all these bad experiences can attribute to that. So for example, we'll probably talk about it a little later, but there is value and positivity that you can find in certain gender roles, or maybe all of them. For the wife, for example, if she is in the traditional role of staying at home and taking care of the family, maybe that's her lane and she can thrive in that, versus having to be in a more modern 50-50 type of situation where she would be more drained. So it's like, what do you want at the end of the day? Do you the individual want peace, or do you want to keep up with what everybody else is saying out here? You got to do what's best for you. And unfortunately, some people haven't really thought that through when it comes to the severity of a relationship.
All right. Okay. So there was a comment that came in from Beloved G. She was saying she's not sure about women and their pay being equal to men. She was saying that she believes that women are still being paid 13 to 15K less than men. So I always want to point out the things that are being shared in the chat. I want to come down to Black Belt and get your thoughts when it comes to why some people tend to push back on these gender roles. What's your take on it?
My general opinion is that people are running away. They don't want certain expectations put on them. They want to be able to pick and choose. This is what I'm good at. This is what I want to focus on. So I to this day, I still never actually have met, for example, to this day, I still never have actually met a woman who says, hey, you know what? Forget all that. I'll be the protector. If something goes bump in the night, I'll be the one who goes down there with my 9. I still haven't heard that one. I still haven't heard the guy say, you know what? I wouldn't give up my career. I mean, I'm not saying this doesn't happen now, but I'm saying I still haven't heard the guys say, you know what? I won't give up my career. I'll just be a stay-at-home dad. I'll be a stay-at-home dad. It happens, but I don't hear that as an often thing. And to me, just the whole gender role thing comes down to most people just want to pick and choose what they're good at and what they're comfortable with. They don't want actual expectations put on them. But yeah.
Okay. Oh, I hear that. So, CEO, what's your take? Especially from the male perspective, do you feel like the majority of men are opposed to or in favor of traditional gender roles?
I'm kind of 50-50. I think that some of them are opposed to it because they don't know how to walk in that role. Like, depending upon their upbringing. Like, if they were in a single parent home where they were raised by their mom, then, and if they weren't necessarily had that community of men that were husbands and fathers that could show them how to necessarily walk in that role, that's a responsibility and an accountability that they may not gravitate to because they don't know how to successfully operate and walk in it. Whereas a female on the flip side, because she's seen nothing but independence, that's the only way that she knows how to operate. So in that situation, it's kind of like the gender roles have been reversed to where the female is more aggressive because all she's known is independence, whereas the male is dependent because that's all he depended upon growing up being in a single family home.
All right. So yeah, we got a lot of comments coming through in the chat with regards to the wage gaps. you know, Krista and Beloved saying the numbers support that. Krista saying that there's definitely a wage gap, and then my man Dojo is saying the Bureau of Labor says that Black women make a median 38 and Black men make a median of 42, which once again kind of shows you that gap. So the reason why I bring that up is because coming down to Andre, I want to get your thoughts. Do you feel like there's a correlation between how much men or women are earning versus the roles that they're playing within their relationships?
Yeah, definitely. Because I think now, when I say this, I'm not saying all women, but I think for the most part, the majority of women want to make sure that they can be provided for by the person that they're with, right? And sometimes that financial security is hard to be found in somebody that makes less than you. So yeah, finances play a big part in the roles that's being played in the house. Because again, let's say if I make 38K and a young lady that I'm seeing makes 42K, and I'm lowballing it here, guys. I'm lowballing it. So make that right. She's not going to feel secure enough to pretty much be in that feminine role in the home because she's got to do as much, if not more, than I do in a relationship. So finances play a big part in how roles are played because, and this is the thing I tend to tell couples that have this discussion, right? And this is just a personal thing for me. If both the husband and wife are working, right, it's probably not the fairest thing for the husband to expect the wife to cook every single night if they're putting in the same amount of work during the day and then coming home about the same time. Because then the question is, okay, so what are you doing, young man, to help add to the home. She's right now cooking dinner for the family. So what are you doing in that process? Because it can't be sitting down and doing what you think men are supposed to do. Because here's the thing: TV from the 40s up until the 2000s portrayed the man to be on the couch like Ted Bundy with his hands in his pants with a remote control, while Peggy's in the kitchen doing whatever she's got to do to feed the family. And I think that also probably was a frustration that has been conditioned into women, saying, I'm not going to be that kind of woman. I'm not going to be out there making the money and coming into the house and then got to cook for everybody while you're watching TV. Nah, bro, that's not going to happen. And the thing is, that's fair. And I think if any man that think that that's not fair, right, is being extremely subjective. So we got to be objective when we look at the roles and be realistic in our expectations. It'll be unrealistic for me to expect my wife to cook every night when we both come home at the same time, putting in the same amount of hours, right? And she may even make more than me. Let's just say that, right? So finances do play a big part in that. So when it comes to roles, we have to think about what's fair and what's going to be, um, what's going to match and sort of be reciprocal in the relationship. If my wife is going to be cooking every night, okay, I should take on the role of washing the dishes every night, especially if we're working, or at that point negotiate how we operate in the roles in the home. And again, that's only fair. This goes beyond gender, because here's the thing: if the man is expected to provide an income, right, and he can't do that on his own, and the wife has to help, you know what the husband has to do? Help in the home. And it's only fair, it's balanced, and that's what happened. That could help avoid burnout in a relationship, and in the home. So that's my position.
Nah, I appreciate you for sharing that, because definitely something that plays a part in a role, right? Outside of the house and in the house. Like the things that's going on outside the house, as anybody that's been in a relationship, but definitely those of you here on the panel who are married can attest to that there has to be synergy between the two. And I appreciate you, Andre, for definitely diving into that and highlighting that point. So want to get to our next point, our next question here, and let's talk about some of these benefits, right? Because whether people are against it, whether they're in agreement with traditional gender roles, I think that there are some benefits to it. So Amanda, what would you say are some benefits to traditional gender roles in a relationship?
Well, I think the support, just having a partner, is the greatest benefit of all. And especially if you're in a relationship that's not just 50-50, but like 100-100, and both partners are really putting their full commitment into it, I don't think there is a greater benefit that we can have as beings than to have a partner, to have someone to support us. And if that rigidity of roles allows for that to happen, then that's an incredible benefit.
Okay. So coming down to you, Troy, what would you say are some of the benefits of traditional gender roles in relationships?
Yeah, so for me, two things. Number one is identity, right? I think roles help us understand identity a little bit more, and when we operate in that space where we feel like we're great at something, it gives us confidence, and we seem to be more attracted to our mates when they have confidence, when they're resting in that place where they feel good about themselves, right? So that's one thing. The other piece of this, though, is I think the roles um, tend to provide some things that are natural to us. Like, so men like to feel nurtured and taken care of a little bit, right? And so sometimes those traditional roles for women make you feel that way. And women like to feel safe and secure. And a lot of times that traditional role of provision and protection makes her feel safe and allows her to rest in her femininity. So I think we can get the most out of each other a lot of times when we have those traditional roles. So that's my opinion.
All right, I hear that. So coming up to you, Asia, what would you say as a woman are some of the benefits of having traditional gender roles?
I definitely think Andre touched on it, just the balance between both man and female. Like you're not feeling overwhelmed. One person isn't feeling more overworked than the other person. I know beloved G, she made a point. Actually, that's my sister, by the way, that's commenting. I know we talk about this all the time. Like if you're not working and you're at home all day and your husband or whoever you're with is out working, you don't mind cooking, right? Like you don't mind doing that. It actually brings you great joy to do it because you're not worried hour out from a 12-hour shift. But also, I would like to say that if you have children, I think it can have a positive impact on them. Seeing my mother operate in the role that she did for my dad in a healthy context has kind of helped my view of marriage and what I want to do for my husband, and vice versa. My dad seeing certain things that, I mean, my brother seeing certain things that my dad did has kind of shaped him of how he wants to be a husband. We take the good and bad. However, the healthiness of it, I think, was very beneficial for us growing up.
Okay, okay. So coming down to you, Pastor K, what would you say have been some of the benefits reaped within your marriage from the gender roles?
I think, as the panel has said, balance is so paramount. And I think when you have some of the traditional roles, it creates balance. But I always go back to this same point that um, every couple is different. You know, it's so hard to create the cookie cutter mindset of the 50s, 60s, and 70s because 80s babies, 90s babies, and these 2000s babies, they operate by a code of their own. You understand? So if you're fortunate enough to have these type of conversations before you get married, I think it saves you the stress and the anxiety that you have to suffer through in your marriage. We all know the rate of divorce, not only in the world per se, but in the church is extremely high. And in the counseling that I've done, I found that most of these divorces would not have even become divorce because they probably would have never been marriages. There were no the 30-minute conversation you got in your pastor's office is not counseling. That was somebody just trying to get y'all married because they didn't want you to have sex. I'd rather go and have sex than get married and suffer for 15, 20 years and raise kids in a verbally abusive home with no guidance and no structure. That might not be biblically sound, but I think that the benefit, just to go back to the point, it brings balance. But I would encourage anybody, before you even decide to make that decision to get married, have this conversation. What do you expect from me as a wife? What do you expect from me as a husband? So this way, no one comes to the marriage shocked when you don't get what you thought you were going to get. Because none of us are mind readers. Most men, if they're lucky, they want their wife to be something like their mother may have been. And women, they glean from their mom and from their marriage and stuff. But these conversations have to be had, before, in my opinion, before you even jump into this institution of marriage, to save yourself some stress.
I agree with you completely. Definitely need to talk about it and understand how that other person perceives gender roles or just their role as an individual entering into that marriage for sure. Now, we did have a few comments that came in, but first, I want to give a shout out first to JD Carter. We appreciate you for joining us tonight, bro. And JD Clay, so glad to have you joining us tonight as well. Beloved G left this comment. She says, I actually believe that people are not understanding that there is a grace that has been given to each gender to operate in it that is not given to the other. She also went on to say, while every marriage is different, marriage is also a God thing, and God's principles for and of marriage don't change. And Crystal was just saying that was good, that you were just saying, Pastor K, and also Tiffany is liking what you said as well, and JD Carter as well. So lots of cosigns in the chat tonight, and I dig that. So I do know that Troy and Andre, you guys have to hop off. Just wanted to get a quick gauge, like what time do you guys have to hop off, just so that I know.
I got like 10 more minutes.
10 more minutes. What about you, Troy?
Yeah, I'm good to about 7:50, so 10 more minutes.
Okay, cool. So I'll go to Tatiana, then I'll come back to the two of you, allow you guys to close it out, give your last words on tonight's topic before we continue on. But Tatiana, what's your take? What would you say as a woman are some of the benefits that you believe gender roles can bring to a relationship?
I think one is like feeling that you don't have to do it all. I think we mentioned that earlier, and that you're part of something bigger than just a role. Honestly, like you're part of a team, a well-oiled machine. If everybody is doing their part, and it serves a greater purpose at the end of the day. Because when Like if you're at work, right? You can't do everything that your coworker does because they may have a different specialty than you, or you can't do the CEO's job. Like, but when you all participate and do your part, then things get done, things get accomplished. So that's what came to mind.
Okay, okay. And Andre, coming down to you, man. Can you share with us your take, some of the benefits of gender roles, and then before you close or after you answer that question, can you just kind of let everybody know where they can get in contact with you and just give us a few of your closing words on the topic tonight?
All right, yeah. Gender roles is a good thing when it's done with understanding that um, the role you play in a relationship uh, doesn't determine the value you have in a relationship. All right, it gives you balance. All right, so what happens is the roles exist so that not everything. I think it was Asia. You were saying this. Not everything is put on one person. So when everything is put on one person, then it doesn't feel like that person could operate fully in their role. And also, I think it's also important for us to really identify what traditional roles are and where we gaining that information from. Are we talking from it from a biblical perspective? Because there are some things biblically that we can read that is clear, but then some things have been traditionally, put on each and every one of us in the role. So we have to identify what's biblical and what's not, and let the biblical foundation, if you are a Christian, let that be the foundation, and then build from there. But I do think that there is a huge benefit in the fulfilling of roles in a relationship, traditional as well, because again, it brings balance, it really would help alleviate any burnout within a relationship. It'll alleviate anybody feeling like they're doing way too much in a relationship. And if one person is doing something and the other person is doing something different, as long as it balances out the work, essentially, it'll help the relationship and it'll help each other feel valued in the relationship. But then again, let's not use the whole, what role you play in a relationship to determine your value, because I think how modern people look at things, they tend to value things solely on monetary, gain. So the person who makes the most money is the most valued in a relationship, and that's not the case at all.
All right, and definitely let them know how they can get in contact with you, show you some support before you sign off.
Got you. Okay, yeah, you can go to Harrison Family Values on YouTube and check out some of my videos, and visit my Instagram at Andre_D_Harrison. And yeah, I just want to promote fatherhood, family, faith, and manhood. That's what we're about on my channel. And yeah, if you guys want to join the Harrison extended family, come on over. I'll welcome you surely.
Andre, thank you so much for joining us, man. It's been a pleasure
Pleasure.
having you
Thank you
on
so
here,
much for
dropping
having
some
me.
gems and some golden nuggets on us, man. We appreciate you,
Yeah.
bro.
And
Thank you
next
so
time
much.
I won't be late. I promise. I got out of
Yo,
work
it's all
late. So
good, man.
my
Yo, you
apologies.
came on and you definitely made up for it with the gems.
My pleasure. Thank you so
So
much.
thank you, bro, man, and have a great night. All right.
You too. Be safe,
All
guys.
right. So coming over to you, Troy, man, before you leave tonight, just give us your closing thoughts and your last words on this topic.
Yeah, so my closing thoughts are simple: is roles matter. You know, roles matter in any part of life, any function in life. So I think we got to start running away from them and start embracing them, so that we can then bring balance back to relationships and marriages. So roles matter. How you define them is up to you and your spouse, but they do matter. So those conversations are important. Absolutely. Those are my closing thoughts right there. In terms of where folks can find me, if you look at my name on the screen right there at Exclusive5, that's me on Instagram. So go follow me on Instagram. One thing I want to make sure I always promote is my book, which is Teach Me How to Love While What You Don't Know Will Hurt You. And it's on Amazon. If you follow me on Instagram, it's at the link in my bio, but it's on Amazon. I always tell everybody, I won't try to sell it to you. Just go read the reviews on it, and then you decide for yourself if you want to purchase it. So um, I appreciate you having me on, brother. Next time I'm here for the full 2 hours. I promise you. It just happened to fall on a spring break week, so I'm gonna go tend to the fam.
Yo, it's all good, man. Thank you again, Troy, for stopping by, joining us on tonight's show, and
Mhm.
definitely look forward to linking up with you soon, bro.
Absolutely. Thank y'all. Thanks to all the other panelists as well.
No doubt, man. Have a great night, bro.
Peace.
All right. So we had a comment that came in from Beloved G. She said, as a therapist, I always remind people that anything to an extreme becomes error. And this applies to gender roles as well. Yeah, I'm definitely somebody that is very mindful of extremes. Definitely a place that you want to be very cautious around. So coming up to my girl Amanda, let's look at it from the flip side. So we were just looking at the benefits, but the next thing that I want to look at, are there some traditional gender roles that you believe are outdated? If so, what would you say some of those are? What's your take on it, Amanda?
I think that, well, it's relative and it does depend on that individual relationship. I do think just one of the more traditional ones, in that the man is out of the home, the woman is in the home, is outdated in and of itself. But I don't know if really any of them are outdated. Just going back to what Andre actually was saying, that value, that's what's outdated to me, is that certain roles are seen as more valuable than others. And I think that is what we need to move away from and start putting those roles on equal level. If, of course, they're given equally, then I think that they should be seen as of equal value.
Okay, and I definitely didn't forget about you, Black Belt and CEO. Let's start with my man, Black Belt. What would you say are some traditional gender roles that may need to, go? They are kind of outdated.
That well, I don't really think I can't think of anything that needs to go, but I
Okay.
would say what I think has gone.
Hmm.
Two things come to mind actually. I would say the first thing is marriage. I don't think just marriage period is something that's highly prioritized today as it was back in the day. People are talking about I got no problem being, I got no problem being a single mom or a single dad. I'll just do it on my own. It's like I mean, come back to me if you want me to go deeper into that. But the second thing I would say is what's outdated is love. People the same way where people have seen maybe their parents or grandparents go through certain things that they say I want to be independent. I'd say the same thing is people have seen, you know what? Love is cool, but I need some tangibles. I need to make I remember vividly in high school in my psychology class in ninth grade, our professor, we were reading a book and it said relationships and marriage. Psychologists, they analogize it to a business deal. And that's how people are looking at it. I mean, I actually think it's a great thing, but some people don't like that. But I think that's pretty much love and marriage. Well, love is one thing, and then marriage is the second thing. I would say is outdated as far as today.
All right, yo, you bring up a really good point, and I would love to get CEO's take on that. Coming behind what Black Belt was just said, do you either think that there are some gender roles that are outdated, or to Black Belt's point, are there some that have become outdated just because of how our society is evolving?
I think they've become outdated based off of how society is evolving. A lot of people treat marriage as a business. You know, combining resources, combining talents for a greater goal, and then other people get married and it has absolutely nothing to do with love. It's like survival first, and then what? If love comes along, then fine. But if not, it's more so about survival. I don't want to take care of all of this financially on my own. She doesn't want to take care of it financially on her. So let's just merge together and let the chips fall where they may.
All right. All right. Before I come up to Asia, we had a comment that came in from Tiffany. She says, I like knowing what is expected of me as a result of gender roles. And she says, I like the terms balance and reciprocal in relationship roles. So, coming up to you, Asia, let's get your thoughts. Like, do you feel like there are some gender roles that are outdated, or do you kind of want to talk to how these gender roles have evolved based on our society changing so much?
I'm thinking I'm going to piggyback off what the other two gentlemen said. I don't think that any of them are outdated. I think that our views have just went far away from tradition. I think that my generation, because I'm 27, so I'm going to say my age group and even those a little younger, we value brokenness. Right? Like we value brokenness. Marriage is not a thing. People say, like, hey, we can have a baby with each other. We a co-parent. Like co-parenting is being the thing that people just want to do. They're skipping over the marriage, they're skipping over the traditions. And I think that a lot of the traditions didn't normalize brokenness and they kept us together as family, as units. So I just think that's just my opinion. I'll just leave it at that. I won't go too much more deeper.
Okay, yo, that's fair. That's fair. Beloved G says, only culturally, trust me, marriage and the concept is alive and well in all other ethnicities except in Black America. That's very interesting. So we had another comment that came in. Queen of Kings says, love isn't enough to make me want to marry someone. Like Black Belt mentioned, I need tangibles in addition to the emotional connection. So there we go. So coming down to you, Pastor K, when we look at how our society is evolving, what's your take on the impact that that's had on traditional gender roles?
I think just to comment on that point there, I'm saying love has never paid a bill in my house because love don't pay bills. Love don't pay bills. I love my wife. We've been married 15 years, but love don't pay bills. So the idea of turning marriage into a business is risky. But as far as the panel has been saying, I don't think the traditions roles have need to necessarily go away. But I just think, just like anything else, marriage has evolved with time. Just like my mom might would have sewed a button back on my suit if Sunday morning because she had a needle and a thread in the house. Ain't no needle and thread in my house. My wife don't sew. We go to Zips. If a button fall off my suit, it's a wrap for that Sunday. We just have evolved with time. But I think that as Asia was saying, this generation, her generation, the mindset is, a lot of them were raised under falsehood. What they thought their parents what they thought their parents' marriage was, behind the closed door, there was a lot more stuff going on that we didn't see as kids. But our generation, we just have exposed all of that. If one of the uncles is molesting one of the kids these days, he not gonna live that secret down for 40 years. We pulling him on the carpet, so you have different, I guess you could say, just to wrap it up, you have more of a transparent generation now. So because we're so transparent and we just keeping it 100, as they say, when you really keep it real, most people they not gonna last in a marriage because we just too transparent. We're not gonna take that verbal abuse. We're not gonna take all that nonsense. We're not gonna take all that drama. I just rather, as she said, I just rather be single because I don't need to take all that drama. So I think the roles have just evolved, which is not always necessarily a good thing, but it's just the reality of where we are in 2022.
I hear that. Yo, Tiffany chimed in. She said, currently society is embracing so many extreme values and roles, which is creating problems in how we view marriage and tradition. All right. So, Tatiana, coming up to you. What impact do you feel society has had on how traditional gender roles are perceived, especially with regards to marriage and love?
Yeah, I think it's a number of things. I was just looking at an article about how Gen Z, which is the generation after the millennials, have totally changed their outlook on what gender roles are in general, and not just how they view marriage, because they are like, marriage, okay, but they already are opening up the spectrum of what gender and sexuality even is. So that's blowing all of our minds. Everybody who was born before 2000, we're just like, okay, so we're just trying to figure it out. And so that's huge, because it's like, if they're the generation that's coming up, they're going to be the new movers and shakers of culture, of politics, of what we see going out in messaging and where we're going to receive. Then we have to have those conversations and make room for them. But we also have to consider, like, okay, well, what needs to change? And we're seeing some of that. We're also seeing, like, our generation, perhaps millennials and the later Gen Xers, are questioning, like, well, what they saw growing up as well. Like, some of us have grown up latchkey kids, or we grown up in single family homes and broken homes. We experienced some things, so that made us want to perhaps slow down on getting married so quickly compared to the baby boomers. And so, like, millennials are getting married at a later rate. Like, the numbers of the average age of men and women have both increased to later 20s. And in the Black community, it's probably a higher number. I don't have the stats on that, but on average, it's like late 20s versus earlier 20s in generation before. So I think one part of it is because more women are going out there and getting their education and working. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, because there's so many reasons why a woman has to go out and work nowadays. But it's good to have the choice and the option. And with more education, more options that everybody has.
I hear that. Doors being open for sure. So coming down to my man. Well, hold on. Let's see. Okay, no comments. So coming down to my man Black Belt. Next question up is, how important do you personally believe roles are in a healthy relationship?
It's at a tie with air and money. I would say it's vital. It's about a three-way tie.
Okay, you want to elaborate on why you perceive it to be? Because that's pretty high, man. Air and money, like we definitely need both of those in this world that we live in.
I don't see how. I mean, I only try to advise people based off what the majority of outcomes are. I try not to give people the exceptions, because I mean, if I was going to give someone advice and I wanted to ruin their life, I would give them the exception to the rule. So generally, what I've seen, and of all races, not just Black, traditional gender roles has worked. And for various reasons, there's been pros and cons. There are cons to everything, but that's just what I've seen that works for all races, not just Black people.
Okay, and just to draw a little bit more out of you. So like in your own personal relationships or interactions with women, like how have the roles, traditional gender roles in this case, how have they benefited your relationships and made them healthier?
I would say every relationship I've been in, I will say this. I've always had two things commonly said about me. One, Black Belt, you're an asshole. Two, I've also been told that, however, you took me serious, more serious than almost any other man has, because I place such an importance on certain masculine roles and genders. Like, if I just could give one example, I don't even if I'm dating someone, I don't even let her go out the house after dark without me, pretty much, because I know the world's full of monsters. And it's a good idea to have a monster on your team. I mean, whether you're a 5'1" woman or a 6' woman, it's a good idea to have a monster on your team. So I don't even, if I'm dating a woman, she can't even go to the gas station by herself. Really, she's not going to go. I'll just get the gas for her. But just pretty much taking her whole existence so serious, that I would say that's something that I like to think that is pretty much the pro or the main benefit of why I take it so serious.
Nah, I appreciate you for it. Definitely sharing and providing that example, man. That's really good. So coming up to you, Amanda, what would you say are the importance of roles when it comes to making a relationship or maintaining a healthy relationship?
Well, can you repeat that again? I just want to make sure I fully understood that. Say that one more time.
Yes. So how important are roles in healthy relationships from your perspective?
Yeah, I think that they are very important. I think their importance vary. Well, here I am. This is me in my head all day long. I think this. No, I think that. But I do think that they are very important. But I do think the particular roles, which I'm not sure who said this in the chat, but someone said that task and roles oftentimes get conflated or confused. And I think that's so important and so true. But I do think that they are important, and that they just vary, though, in their importance for different people in different relationships. Personally, I have never needed an explicit, this is what you are going to do, or this is what I need from you as a man to feel secure. But I do need I need you to show me that, more so than to have this conversation. Sometimes I find when you have the conversation, someone tries to temporarily be that, but that doesn't always last because that's not authentic to who they are. So I think it's really important to have the roles, but for there to be space. I do think that there has to be space, there has to be fluidity, and sometimes your partner is not going to be able to fulfill this certain role to the fullest because that's just how life goes. And I do think that there has to be room for both people to weave in and out of those roles when life asks that of us.
All right, yeah, that's good. CEO, why are roles important for you in your relationships?
Because they provide peace, balance, a positive image, um, and it prevents me from burnout and feeling that in order for the relationship to be successful, I have to do everything, and then my partner does absolutely nothing. Yeah, I mean, if I'm gonna do that, I might as well just be by myself. So for me, that's the benefit of it for me.
Okay. Coming up to you, Asia, what is the importance of roles in your relationships?
The importance, and this just may be me being a little biased, I just think that women just know how to run a household differently than men. That's just me personally. I think about the roles or just how God created us. My sister said it perfectly. Like, God has graced us to do certain things, men to do certain things, women to do certain things. Men can take pressure and leadership roles sometimes a little differently than women can. And let me not generalize. I'm gonna just say myself, even as a business owner, I can look and see how my dad handles certain things operating his business opposed to how I handle things operating my business. Sometimes I can be a little bit more emotional with things. Sometimes that I can be a little bit more sensitive and be like, well, maybe, my emotions can get involved. And I think that that's okay. Like, I'm a woman. That's how God created me. And it balances that man out. So I think I ain't lost my train of thought, but that's just kind of how I feel. And I think about the Proverbs 31 woman. I got it back now. I think about the Proverbs 31 woman. She managed their household. Every woman that I know, whether stay at home, work, business owner, they handle their household. The house is taken care of. They handle those duties and they lead in that so well. So I just look at it like that. Like, God has just graced us to do different things. And I value that a lot. Oh, I
All
just
right.
thought of something.
Yes.
Most men, and I'm not trying to come for the men, but if you go to a man's house, it's always just a house because men can live off just the basics, right? Men can have the same sheets on their bed, just washing them, not buying new ones, not buying new linen and towels and different things. Like, women, we make it a home. Like, it's a big difference when you go to a man's house and a woman's house. Why? Because women, we're just gifted and just creating just that comfortability. And if a man's house is comfortable, his mama and been over there, his cleaning lady, like some woman has came and added some type of something to it. So I just think that the roles, women, we're just gifted in there. I don't know too many women that cannot make a house a home if she healthy and whole, but that's a whole nother topic for another day. But on the surface level, most women can do that.
All right. So yeah, you can see the ladies in the chat agreeing with you, Ebony and Krista. So coming down to you, Pastor K, in your marriage, how important have the roles been?
Well, I think that the roles they keep the peace. Now me personally, I can only speak for me. I'm a servant type man. That's who I am. So I do a lot more than what some other traditional men may do. That's just my personal my personal preference. There's some things I'm not going to allow my wife to do. Okay, my wife will never cut the grass if I can walk. She'll never pump gas if I'm breathing. You understand what I'm saying? There's certain things that I'm just me as a man, I'm just not going to allow her to do. Now, but there's been times when I've traveled, I had to do stuff. She had to take on some of those roles that I do. And so she's capable of doing it. But just to give you a small example, like my parents, my dad was like I am. He basically took care of the bills. My mom worked. He was a servant type, but when my father died, I became my mom's husband because she was so lost. She never wrote a check before. I had to help her do certain things. This is my mom, but my dad had served her so much. He served her out of how to, be who she was. I had to kind of coach her along, So now with that mindset, with my wife, I make sure that she's able to do everything that a man can do. I'll make sure my daughter is capable, because I have a daughter, I have a son. I'll make sure that she's capable of doing what a man can do, so she don't ever have to depend on a man. I'll make sure she knows how to change a tire. If she can't, who to call. I'll make sure that she's not sitting in the driver's seat while her boyfriend is in the passenger seat. I'll make sure that won't happen. But these are the type of things that I'm going to change in them with the generation coming up behind. But to Asia's point, what she was saying is actually, a spiritual principle about how women can come in and make a house a home, because they are designed to give life in the midst of darkness. That's what they're made to do. The man is a giver. The woman is a receiver. She brings forth life. Simple sexual term here. We provide sperm. They provide an egg, and they bring forth life. No man's out here pushing babies out because we don't have the ability to give life. That's a woman's job. And I think with the gender roles, and as I think Tatianah was saying with the Gen Z, whatever generation we're in now, this role shifting with the, I ain't gonna get all political, but with the building, the Alabama or Texas laws passing with the joint bathrooms, and Amanda, I know you're a school teacher. Some of these roles and stuff are starting to come into the public school space. And as a pastor, as an educator, and all you other you all profession, we don't necessarily may not agree, but we have to at least try to understand, try to adapt, and try to, find some way to communicate, because if we don't learn how to communicate with all these roles and gender shifting, we're going to lose another generation, was what we're trying not to do. But to answer your question, for my household, keeping the roles, keeping some of the traditional stuff in place keeps balance and it keeps peace. Because I can't live in a house that doesn't have any peace.
That's real talk. Peace is everything. Yes, black belt.
I just want to ask a quick question to the ladies, if that's all right.
Of course it is, man. The floor is yours.
What is the general socioeconomic standing of these men whose houses look like barren caves? And I'm asking because I'm only aware of, in my life, I'm only aware of a certain socioeconomic standing of guy whose house looks equivalent to basically an abandoned, boarded up building. I'm being facetious. But
Yeah, since Asia brought it up, let's hand this one over to Asia.
Okay, so I might have been being dramatic. I'm not walking into like a abandoned house, no furniture, mattress on the floor. I'm just talking about just certain details that women would have in their home that men don't. So you're asking what is their earnings?
I mean, earnings is one thing. I didn't want to stick to just earnings. Like I guess, I mean, there's economics is one part, but also there's just the whole all around person, like, income, education, I guess life experience, just as a whole.
Oh, I think that they're pretty well-rounded men. I honestly, seeing their homes and seeing how it just need a woman touch, to me, doesn't take away from the fullness that they are as a man. I just look at it as ain't no woman present. When I see it, I just like, oh, ain't no woman been over here. It isn't a woman's touch. That's just kind of how I look at it. I don't think it's anything other than that. That's just my opinion. Ladies, what you think?
Well, I want to chime in. Asia, I do know exactly what you're talking about. And I have been in those homes. And I've been in homes with men who have nice homes that do look like those barren caves. I want to say and, not but. I also think it comes down, to me, it has always been just a difference of priority and a difference in personality and creativity. For me, I'm the type of person where I want to have nice things, pretty things, shiny things around me. And I have to really to talk about femininity and masculinity, I have to really shift into that masculinity when I go out and shop, so that I don't just buy 80 candles and paint and just all these things to make a place look nice. And I think it's just that it's a little bit of a difference. And when you walk into a room, what do you see and what do you want to see? So I think it's a difference in priorities and also creativity. I've met so many men who are artists and musicians, and I found that, they have things. They're gonna have, if it's like a Jimi Hendrix poster or whatever, they're gonna have some things. So I think that there is a bit more nuance to it, which I know, Asia, you know that too.
All right. So Tatiana, did you want to chime in before I read some of the ladies in the chat?
Sure, just a quick example. There was one show I was watching. It was on the Kev on Stage app called Love on Stage. And there was like one couple that is engaged now, but the guy, Robert, is like an engineer or something. He works for NASA or something like that. And so his now fiance, when they were dating, she came to visit his home and she was like, or saw his home. She's like, it's well decorated. There must have been a woman up in here. So they had a whole debate about that too. So it's like, okay, so can guys be, decorative with their homes and stuff like that? I just saw a meme yesterday. I don't know who makes these memes up, but it was like a guy would be comfortable with just the basic. It was like a 6-pack of beer, a fold-up chair, and the TV on the floor. I'm like, I don't know who made that. I didn't. But I'm just wondering, like, how accurate is this? So there's extremes on both ends, but I think it's possible for a guy to have some decor, some kind of style. I think maybe Asia was talking about the warmth that a woman can bring to make it a home. I think that touch, you just feel like there's a difference there.
Okay. So you heard from the ladies on the panel. So in the chat, we had a few comments that came in from Krista and Beloved G. So Krista says, I know men with apartments that look like the apartment that you see for a showing. She said they don't have decorations. They're educated black men, and that's what you mean. And they always have a huge TV. Beloved G says, I don't think it's that I just think that men don't think in detail. Are there expectations? Yeah, there are, but men just don't see things as important. And she also went on to say, even when a man has a nice home, it's like it's just a lack of attention to detail. And then Ebony just chimed in. She says color coordination. And she also says matching patterns, etc. Katiwe says, yes, these quote unquote high value men are out here decorating. And Tiffany says beer and folding chair. She's laughing at that. And Ebony is also laughing at Katiwe's comment. So, yeah, what did that answer your question, Black Belt?
Oh, absolutely. It absolutely
Okay.
answered it. Yeah. I appreciate you ladies very much.
Yes, that's what it's all about. And kind of going back to something that Pastor K was saying, what really stood out to me was when you were talking about capability, right? I think that that's really huge, right? Where a person needs to be capable or able to have that ability to do something, but based on what type of relationship you're operating in, it may not be the primary role, or it may not be an expectation that is placed on you to fulfill that role or to do that activity. And I think that that's really important. I think for any person, just from a survival perspective, you should have the ability or the capability to do things that may not necessarily align with the traditional gender roles. But like you stated, I think you get a great example, Pastor K, of your mother. You never want to be in a position where, what if she didn't have a son, such as yourself? Like, if a person is put in a position where they don't have the ability to do something that's necessary, then it can be crippling to not, even learn how to perform certain roles in a relationship. So, yeah, that was really great. Yes, Asia.
I want to add to what Pastor K said. I remember growing up, and I feel like I told you guys this story before. I remember I was probably like in the 8th grade, and this kind of goes to the gender roles and things. I was maybe 8th or 9th grade, and Webby had a song, Independent, the song with the women or whatever. And I would go around the house singing it. I would be like, I'm an independent woman, 8th, 9th grade. And my dad corrected it real quick. Every time he heard me say that, he always be like, all right, Asia, don't be so independent where you don't let no man be no man. And at that age, it didn't make sense. But now as an adult, I get what he was saying. So I just made me think of that when Pastor K said that, he wanted to raise his daughter to not be dependent. And I think that's great. And I think it's also a balance of raising your children, of, or how my dad did me, of understanding the man's role and respecting that, and not emasculating him at an early age, teaching me that, and not trying to overstep, and giving him room to be the man, and giving him room to step in and do what he needs to do. My dad was real big on that with me.
Nah, that's real. And it kind of almost reminds me of what Beloved G was talking about, the extremes. I think two of those extremes are a person that doesn't know how, meaning they lack the ability or the capability to do certain things that just as a person, you should know how to do that. Have it in your tool belt just in case, right? And then the other one is the people who may have the capability, they have the ability to do it, but they're like, I'm not doing it because I'm this gender. And it's like everybody is going to have to respond to the fact that I'm not doing it. It's like, it's not that you can't do it. Somebody need a hand and they're like, no, I'm a man, I'm a woman, I'm not doing that. So I think that those are those extremes that we have to be careful of. And I think it's been alluded to throughout our conversation, which is balance, compromise within a relationship. So those are really great points. Yes, CEO.
Um, to piggyback off of what Pastor K said, when my grandmother passed away, um, it was a culture shock for us to see how my grandfather responded, because he spent their entire marriage working outside of the home. All he did was work. She was a housewife. Like, she didn't even drive or anything of that nature. Like, whenever she would come home, laundry would already be done, the house would already been clean, food is already cooked. And when she passed away, like, there were times literally where he would just sit in the house lost. And like, that was a prime example of when she passed away, he lost that balance and that peace that she provided. And he was like 70 something years old. Like, now, how do you teach this 70 something year old man how to do all of the things that he spent 65, 60 something years depending upon my grandmother to do, and being accustomed to doing it? So it took like my aunt, my mom, to come in and provide that balance for him, so he could still get up and function, and know, you know what, this part that was taken care of for so long in my marriage, now I still don't have to figure out how to do, because I have somebody else, even though they're my children and my grandchildren, that are filling that role until, unfortunately, he was, no longer with us.
I appreciate you for sharing that example, because I think it really points to the fact that it can happen to both men and women, right? Because some people may be like, oh, well, that can just happen to women, but not even some men, right? If we use a basic example of like cooking, I think everybody here can agree that a man, even if he has a woman that's primarily doing the cooking, you should know how to cook. Like, you should have that ability, so that if your wife go out of town or God forbid something happens, that you can actually go make a meal and you don't have to, depend on either delivery or somebody else doing it for you, right? So there were a few other comments that I wanted to point out really quickly. Crystal was saying her dad always told her, always be able to take care of yourself, but find a man who doesn't want you to. And Beloved G says, we're not talking the exception. There's always the exception. Yeah, there's always going to be an exception. And then Tiffany says, my grandmother experienced that too when her grandfather died. So yeah, we appreciate you for sharing that with us, Tiffany. So coming up to you, Tatiana, just on the question about how important roles are in your relationships, how vital are those roles? I think you're muted. There we
Yeah,
go.
I think they're important. I always like nowadays, well, not nowadays, but I always wanted to be interdependent. Like, I wanted to be able to do the things that were required of me to just survive as an adult, like you were saying, Jay, but also to, at some point, be able to depend on my partner to show up for me in the ways that I needed him to, which I was leaning more on the traditional end more so than modern when I looked at some of the roles. So there's things that I could do now. Like, I probably have to take the garbage out after this show because I have a home. I live with other adults, but I'm the person taking out the garbage, but I'm not the one who cooks primarily. So it's a weird balance here that we're doing. But in my marriage, ideally, I would like to see like both parties participate in taking care of the home in the ways that they're best at. Like if there's something that you prefer to do, I don't mind you doing that. And if there's something I can do, I do that. So kind of like fitting what works best for us.
That's important. Very important. So before I throw out another question, I just want to give everybody here on the panel the opportunity. Did any of you have any questions that you like to pose to the panel at large or anybody specifically on the panel? Anybody? Yes, Amanda. And then I'll come to you, Asia.
Well, I do have a question for the men on this panel, and this goes back to, I think, what Asia brought up earlier was what your father taught you. And I know that Webby song, among many other Webby songs I probably shouldn't know, but that's a different story. But about being an independent woman, and I kind of just want to ask the men, because I have always felt that I know everyone's different. There's individuals, everything is relative, but I would kind of want to hear maybe a generalized perspective on how do men see independent, successful women? How do you view that in terms of partnerships? The example I guess I could use is I work at a private school and a very kind of elite town, and all of the parents of my students, for the most part, all of them are together, but there's only a few who aren't. But all of them are wealthy on both ends. The female and the male, they both are equally successful, equally educated, just equals in at least the exteriors that we get to see. And I've always felt from an outsider's perspective, when I look at, I suppose, like celebrity relationships are the only ones we can like really look at. I feel that there's those two types of celebrities, right? Like I think we all know what I'm saying. Like there's like levels to the celebrities, and I think of those who really are well established and refined, and that come off to me as classy. They have partners who on the exterior are equals to them in their success. The male and the female seem to be equally established. And then in other situations, it seems as if it's more so the woman, and then the guy is here and the woman's kind of here. And I kind of think of this more with like rap celebrities. Like sometimes it seems like, their girlfriends or their baby mamas, they just kind of have their own thing that they got because they were connected to this guy. And so I say all of that to say, like, what is your perspective? Because it always seems to me, and this is something I've always thought, that just like real men want real women who also have something to bring to the table, like something tangible, to go back to those tangibles. But I don't know. Do you agree with that? And is that true? And is that something that you as men do value and want in your partner? For those of you who are married, is that something that you looked for, that you value? So I'd just love to hear your opinion on that.
All right. One of you fellas want to go in first? If not, I'll call on Pastor K and ask you to speak up if you don't mind.
Well, I think, thank you for the question. I think that I personally don't have an issue with independent women. I think that it's important that you do bring something to the table. I think Amanda made a point earlier, and this is what I teach when I do premarital counseling. It is the idea of I bring 50% and you bring 50%, we still short 100. And I think a lot of marriages are short 100. You have to come whole. You can't come, with your 50, and then I come with 100. We still short 50. So the idea of a lot of men are fearful of independent women because it shows them weaknesses in their life. That's just a lot of times that can happen, But the man has to know, if he knows who he is, it's not going to matter what you bring to the table. I tell my wife all the time, please go make $1 million. And then we can make $1 million. I'll be home, stay home dad or whatever, but I'm a little more traditional, old school. We do the joint bank account type thing. I know a lot of people don't teach that anymore, but we operate like that. You know, if you make 50,000, I make 50,000, we make 100,000. You know, but that's how I operate. You know, but just to wrap it up real quick, one of the things that I learned from my dad is the saying of behind every black man is a strong black woman. You know, is it actually is not biblical at all. You know, because what happens is you have, you know, God is supposed to be here, the man, then the woman, and then the children. So what happens is when the woman falls in that philosophy, she doesn't have anybody to fall towards, you know, because the man is in front of her. You know, so I think a lot of times, you know, I try to be the man, you know, where no matter how independent my wife may be, or, you know, because she's from DC, from PG County, so she had that independent mindset. Asia can contest that, you know, that's how they roll in the DMV area. They strong, they work for the government, they make 150,000, 200,000, they got their own car, their own house, they don't need your credit, they got their own diamond earrings, they got their own jewelry, they don't need nothing from you, brother. You know, they got their own thing. But I think the man, if he's confident in who he is, he's not going to be pressed, you know, what the woman brings to the table.
All right. Black Belt or CEO, either you brothers want to chime in next?
I'd actually love to hear from us, Mr. CEO first, if that's all right with him.
Okay, Mr. CEO.
Could you repeat the question so I can gather my thoughts, please?
Wait,
Yes.
where'd the question? Where are you?
Yeah, she dropped off. When she comes back, I'll definitely add her back in. I'm not sure what happened. But Amanda was asking the question with regards to how do men perceive independent women? If I can kind of get to the point, do you want a woman who is, I guess you could say, more closer to your equal, or are you open to a woman that, you know, is, I guess, along for the ride? And here she comes back. So Amanda, you're back. You're back. Okay, here we go. So let's.
Sorry about that. I think my computer just couldn't handle all the truth. Like it was
Yo,
like,
it is.
this is too much. It's too much. So I apologize.
Yo, it's all good. So CEO was asking what the question was again. I was trying to answer it. I think I got it right, but I'd rather you put it out there again. Like, do you mind repeating the question for CEO?
Yeah, it was just the thoughts on independent, successful women and their. Do you see them as just as attractive and desirable partners, long-term committed partners, as women who maybe aren't as financially successful?
Thank you,
I
Amanda.
do. I personally do. The independence doesn't bother me or intimidate me, but I have a mindset of anyone that I'm going to involve myself with, I'll let them know up front that if I don't feel like I can add to your life and make your life a little bit easier, then there's no point of me being in it. Not to say, and then to make sure that I'm distinct and letting her know I'm not saying that you're helpless. It's just that I want to help make your life a lot easier. Whatever way I can take as much stress off of your shoulders as possible to, again, provide that peace, provide that balance. So us as a couple, as a whole, we can be a lot more successful. Then that's what I'm all for. So her being independent, hey, just like I expect her to be my biggest cheerleader, I'm going to be her biggest cheerleader as well.
All right, and you got Krista saying she love that. She need a man that makes her life easier. So with that being said, coming over to my man Black Belt, what's your take on it, bro?
I would say success. Success success is always attractive, all the time, no matter what. Winners want to be with winners want to be with winners. Losers want to be with winners, but losers don't want to be with losers. So success is always going to be attractive. However, I would say just because you are successful at what you do for a living, and I've actually had this happen last year, just because you're successful at what you're doing for med school, that doesn't mean you're going to beat out, fill in the blank other woman I might be considering just because you have a higher financial ceiling or because you're just happen to be more educated. Like, that's not the case. That's not the case at all, at least not for me, especially since I'll say, hopefully not without sounding like a dick. I'm in an upper income bracket, so I don't necessarily, it doesn't bother, it doesn't help me or hurt me. I mean, great. If she makes 150 grand, great. That's excellent. That's wonderful. So I would say success is great, but that's not within my top 5 criteria of long-term considerations. The success is, you being successful is pretty much a prerequisite. Just like I would like to think me being successful is a prerequisite. It's like, all right, we got that box checked off. Now what are we doing moving forward? And I would say, as far as the independent portion, I've told dates on the first date, if you're independent, and if you don't need a man, I'm good. I'm solid. We straight. I'll pay for the date. We're still here. I'll pay for the dinner, but I'm gonna stay at this table. If you want to go to another table, just tell them to send me the bill. But I'm not here for a woman. If I'm not needed, then I don't know what I'm doing here, frankly. And at the end of the day, I am pretty confident. I'm one of those people who don't mind working until the grave. So I'm pretty confident, even if you are making 200 grand a year, you're not trying to do that at 65 like I am. I don't mind just to keep working. Like, that's just how I'm kind of wired. So that whole thing doesn't even bother me because it's just not something I consider. I don't see, you're not my equal. I'm not your equal. We're trying to get different things from each other.
Can I just ask for CEO and for, is it black belt? Is that?
Yeah, you can say dojo. Black belt or dojo's fine.
Okay. Just when you both are saying that if you can't provide or if you can't help, then you're not needed and you can go on and do your own thing. Do you just mean in a financial sense when you're saying that, or does that also mean being able to emotionally and mentally and physically provide and support as well? Or is that just curious, is it just financial that you're speaking?
For me, it's not just financially, because I'm not going to be that narrow minded. For me, it's everything as a whole. It's emotional support. It's covering her spiritually. Being there physically. The encompass as a whole, so she doesn't have to go anywhere else to get whatever I'm not giving her. If I'm just focusing on financial, but then she needs mental support, emotional support, spiritual support, and she goes outside to get it, I can't get upset when I didn't provide her what it was that she needed, especially if she made it known that those were some of the things that she needed. Because financial, if she already has it, then she already had it before I came along, and she's still going to have it even if I don't stay around.
I would say, I'm sorry, were you done, CEO? Okay, I would say no. It's not. Financial is not all of it, and I wanted to phrase that in a way. If she feels like there's nothing I can do to add to her, I haven't met a woman who I can't improve her life in some aspect. I haven't met a woman, so I look at that from not just financial. I look at that from a social, from an intellectual, from an emotional, from a physical standpoint. So it's more so, how does she feel like, I don't need a man. I just want to be here. And if you feel like I'm not needed, then cool. I mean, I don't take it personal. I see this isn't going to work out for you and I. I don't take it personal at all.
Oh, great question, Amanda. Appreciate all of the fellas for chiming in and sharing their answers. Asia, I know you had a question. By all means, the floor is yours.
Well, Amanda, you might have took my question, girl. What I was thinking, I think y'all done kind of talked about it. I was just gonna kind of bring up, when it comes to the finances with a woman, are you guys okay with your woman potentially making more than you? And I think that this is something, if I'm being transparent, I always think about that. Like, man, like, I wonder if that will be a deal breaker for a man. Like, is it a certain number? Because some men might be like, oh, okay, well, let's just throw a random number. She makes 50, I make 45. But what if you make 45 and she make 105? And I've heard some men say that it just depends on how much more she makes. And I just kind of want to know your opinion about that. can the woman be the sole provider in your household? I like that Pastor K said that their money comes together. That's how I look at it. Like, it's all the same pot. So whether I'm making 100,000 or you're making 50,000, if it's going into the same household and it's going into the same pot, as long as the bills get paid, does it really matter? But I understand that that's an individual thing. Not everybody thinks like that. So I kind of just wanted to know the man's perspective, because I think a lot of women think about that as women continue to rise. When it comes to income, women are making more money, but I think that some women and women in my ministry have shared this, is becoming like a, not an insecurity, but like, man, if I make too much, will I not be chosen by a man because of my income? Not that they're, now let me give a disclaimer. This is the woman that's not parading it. She's not emasculating a man, not saying, oh, I make more than you, having an attitude where he doesn't feel unwanted and unneeded, but just, I make more money than you. What do you do in a situation like that?
You gentlemen mind if I go first, actually?
Go for it.
All right. This may or may not be explosive. That's why I wanted to go ahead and get it out first. I would say, just black belt, of course. It doesn't matter to me because I mean, for myself, definitely, and for the guys I know, I don't know any guy who's had a woman spend more on him than he did her, regardless of the income differential. So to me, the income's pretty irrelevant. I mean, let's just say if I make 100 grand and she makes 300 grand, she's still expecting me to take her on vacation. I don't think she's expecting, oh, well, he took me to Jamaica, I'm gonna take him to, San Tropez next time. I don't think that's necessarily going to be her first thought. But also, I would say it doesn't matter to me, again, because I have my own trajectory of where I'm trying to go in life, with or without, like, whether she's here. I mean, in this hypothetical, I just found out you even existed. This plan I have for my life was here long before I ever knew you were on the planet with me. So her making more just doesn't matter to me, pretty much. And well, not pretty much, just doesn't matter at all if she makes more than me. And at the end of the day, I think it's completely different versus, if I'm dating a woman and let's say she can afford her own Fendi bag, sorry. It's different between, you can afford your own Fendi bag, but it's different when you had to go to the store and buy it versus you had a man who can afford it and said, hey, I know you love Fendi. I can afford to get you a Fendi. Let's go get you a Fendi bag. And you walk out the Fendi bag store. I mean, when you walk out the Fendi store and you're carrying it and the man bought it for you versus 95% of the people in there just window shopping. And maybe the other 5, maybe a man bought it for them. Maybe she had to buy it herself. But that's that I see that as women probably see that differently. I could be wrong, but I feel like women see that differently versus I had to go buy my own high-end BMW versus, oh, well, I got a man who says, oh, he says you deserve to drive this car and he's going to take that note over for you. I don't know, though. You ladies tell me.
Oh, no, you hitting it on the head. Y'all can't hear me over here, but I'm co-signing. I say hello. I agree. It does hit different. I think most women, regardless if you can afford to do it, most women can afford to get their nails done, right? And I'm just using something really general, not that expensive. Most of us can afford to go get our nails done, but it just hits different when somebody sends you the money to go get it, or pay. It just hits different when the man does it. So I do agree to your point with that 100%. I like those roles, okay?
Yeah, that's real. Pastor K or CEO, what do you guys want to chime in next? Pastor K?
I think that Asia, you say you're 27, right? Not to throw your age out. Okay, you're 27. All right. So I think when it comes to the income in the household, it's going to change the type of man that is seeking you out, because every man can't handle that. Because if they just being real, their pride won't let them handle it. They're not going to sit at home and make 50, you make 300,000. They pride. It's a different type of man. Men come in various levels. Like Black Belt said, he ain't pressed. He don't care because he's like, I'm bringing value. You bringing value. It is what it is. I'm going to keep it real. He a rare breed. Most of the men you're going to bump into these days, it's hard for them to handle that. Now, I'm a type of person that doesn't care, but you have to, one of the points that you made, which was important, is you can't lord that over a man. And that's what happens a lot of times. a woman makes that kind of money and she lords that over him. And when I say that, I mean, like, you know, it's like he know you make more money. You make that known. You know, he like, I'm about to go out and buy these J's. They like 400. He's like, you ain't got no J money. You know, or what, you know, you can't lord that over them. Or, you know, you got a Benz, he got a Honda. You know, that's, you know, it can't be like that, you know, but the type of man you have that is willing to accept that, you know, it's going to be a unique man who doesn't have that pride issue. And unfortunately, you know, a lot of men have that pride thing there that no matter how much they think they can do it, and until they see their $1,200 going to check and your $4,500 going to the account, it's like, oh, man, she out here making bread. You know, it hurts them emotionally because we've been conditioned to believe that we are supposed to be the breadwinner. You know, but sometimes, you know, that's just not always the case. You know, so just to answer your question, you know, every man is different. Every man is different, you know, but you have to, as a woman, you're going to have to gauge that. You know, you have to gauge the temperament of the man or the relationship you're in. But I don't want women to make less money for no dude. That's just silly. Don't ever do that. Don't ever, don't ever lower. But I see it all the time. They lower their standard so they can be underneath him. That don't ever do that. You know, if you balling, you balling. If he can't play, you got to find a new partner.
Pastor, is that biblical? I just want to ask real quick.
Is
it biblical? Like, I just want to know if scripture.
The scripture people throw at all the time is, well, we just unevenly yoked. Okay, well, that joint been taken out of context so many times. Okay, the unevenly yoked and all that stuff has majority of stuff to do with spiritual stuff. Ain't got nothing to do with none of this natural stuff at all. You know, but to answer your question, when you look at men throughout the Bible, you know, it's you know, if you want to throw church into it or ministry into it, you know, they've always been the breadwinners because that was the culture of the time. You know, but men who struggle with pride, and pride is not a bad thing. God has given us pride. God gave men pride. You know, he gave us pride. So when that robber come in the front door, we gonna make sure we protect you. He gave us that. But if that pride is not put in check, what happens is, if the woman is the breadwinner, a lot of times, what you guys don't know, not only my pastor, but I've been in law enforcement for 15 years. So what happens in these relationships, when the woman is the breadwinner and the man knows that, he can become verbally abusive because he needs something to get power back, because money is seen as power in the household. So when he doesn't have that power, he has to take that power back in another way. So if he can't take it back with money, he take it back with his words. And a lot of women you find are very, very successful are abused all the time because the man is shaking her head. She know, because the man, his pride, you know. But that's not for every situation, you know. But that's my little piece on there. But to answer your question, yes, you can do it. Go ahead, Black Belt. I see you itching, man. Go ahead.
I just want to answer one thing. She said, "Is that biblical?" I would say, I'm not a Christian, but in my religion of money, absolutely, thou shalt not lose money.
I guess my question was, I was saying, was it biblical that a man had to make more than his wife? That's all I was saying. Like, that's all I was saying. Was that biblical? Because people I never read that in the word that the man has to make more. But
it's a cultural thing. It's a cultural thing, you know, that has just been embedded into man, that we feel as if we have to be, you know, the breadwinners. But that's why you see a lot. It's unfortunate. A lot of your successful women are single, unless they're involved with a man who is a leveled up. You know, it's just rare. You got the occasional singer who will date her background dancer for 6 months, but that relationship comes to an end quickly because he make 40,000, she make 40 million. It's just hard. I'm just being real with you. It's hard.
All
And
right,
we
CEO,
probably
what's your
we don't have enough time to go there, but to add to Pastor K's point, the intersectionality of relationships, money making, and race, a lot of Black women, unfortunately, would be willing to date down just to have a Black man versus willing to date outside their race with someone who makes equal amount as them. I don't know what the numbers are for that.
That's true. And like you said, that's a whole nother show.
It is. CEO, what's your take, man?
I wouldn't have a problem with it because the way I look at it, there are only 4 individuals that will probably know that she makes more than me: myself, her, the IRS, and God. That's it. Like if I don't tell anybody else, then I don't have to worry. Like if I don't tell my boys that she makes more than me, I don't have to worry about these questions that cause my pride to be checked and cause my ego to be in questioned, or for them to look at me a little bit different because I'm with someone that makes more than I do. Like, okay, so you're with someone who's the VP of such and such, but then they're walking around with their chest poked out because they're dating somebody who's the head of fries. So like it's totally different. So I, it's nobody else's business outside of myself and my significant other, as far as long as our house is operating the way it's supposed to, as long as we don't have to ask anybody for a loan or to borrow money or anything like that, it's nobody else's business. As long as our bills are paid and we're not getting pink slips or every other color slip and stuff isn't getting cut off, it doesn't bother me at all.
All right, all right. So great question, Asia. So did anybody else have any questions that they like to pose? Yes, Tatiana.
I,
And yeah, CEO, what would you want to say?
I have a comment. I wanted to comment to what Asia said about
Okay.
yes, she can get her own nails done, but she would like for her significant other to do it. There's a certain, and this is just what I've experienced, there is a certain type of glow that a woman has when she's in the nail shop surrounded by a bunch of other women, and her man comes in and drops his debit card and was like, I want to pay for that one, and then turn around and walk out the door. Like she becomes the center of attention, all eyes on me. I'm jealous, things of that nature. And I think women have a certain level of pride and ego when it comes to being around other women, where they're like, look, this is what I got. Where's yours? They don't say it, but the smile on their face, the glow that they have, tells it all.
Mr.
And the
CEO,
reactions we getting from the ladies on the panel.
I'm telling you from experience, Mr. CEO, when you walk in there and if this is, let's just say you're hanging out and they have their friends with them, when they all gotta pay for themselves, and then you're saying, oh no, she's with me. Oh yeah, they're not even trying to. You can see the twinkle. It's a status symbol. It is a status symbol. Whether they're trying to like be, I'm not even saying they're trying to be, malicious, but it is a status symbol. In my opinion, in a way, it's a validation of, oh no, I really am like that. I ain't just saying this in my head, made up. Like I'm not just dreaming this. Someone here in real life that you see, oh no, he's validating what I think of me.
All right. Yo, so before I
Energy.
come to you, Tatiana, really quick, let me just read this comment from Katiwe, and then I'm gonna come right to you and your question. So Katiwe was saying, when I reflect and think on my parents' situation, her mom got sick and passed early on. Her dad had to support her and himself. So she thinks that each person should have enough to sustain themselves and a child. And then she also shared, I don't think that you should have to compromise and date down just to have a black man. There are black men out there within my tax bracket and that exceed it. I think that you just have to vet people. So that was a comment that came in from Katiwe. So Tatiana, what's your question?
My question was, is there a need to modernize traditional gender roles in marriage? I had an answer for that, but I wanted to hear what you all had to say in the panel.
Okay. Anybody in particular you want to hear from?
Whoever wanted to answer.
Okay. Who wants to chime in to Tatiana's question first?
So the question is there a need to modernize gender role? That what you're saying? I I think everything should be updated, because I think as we as a species of humans grow, we have to update things. Just because you bring something up to date doesn't mean you change it. And I think that's just take your phone, for example. Every 3 months, Apple's sending me some update. I don't buy a new phone. I just update what's already in the phone. And that's what a relationship is in marriage. So if you're married in a relationship, we update what's already in the relationship. We don't go out and buy something new. We don't go buy a new marriage, because that's what people are doing. So people now, when they don't want to update their marriage, they go get a new phone. They go get a new marriage. Now, I'm tired of updating. I don't want to upgrade no more. So I'm gonna go get me a new one, because it's so easy now. I'm gonna get me a new one. So, but to answer your question, I think it is okay to upgrade your relationship, because your status changed. Like, the roles I did when our children were babies changed when they got into elementary school. It changed under my daughter in middle school and my son. So roles change as the relationship, grows. So I think it's necessary. You can't function the way my wife and I function in year 5 of the marriage is not the same way we function in year 15. Because if we're still operating the same way in year 5 and year 15, we didn't grow. And that's the problem. You have people trying to run 20 marriages that's been in operation for 20 years with 5-year knowledge, and they wonder why their marriage is falling apart, because they're using the same ideas, thoughts that they had in year 5 and year 20. The marriage is in a totally different space.
Great point. Amanda, what's your take on Tatiana's question?
I'm hesitant to answer, because I'm not a married person, and I don't have that experience really to say what is or isn't for that. I think that what Pastor K said, as everything that he said, is just like accurate and spot on and so insightful. And I guess I just kind of want to echo about that evolving. I do think that as human beings and as beings in general, we have to allow room to change and to grow and to evolve. That is what we do. And I think that extends to every part of our existence, including our relationships. But I don't know. Maybe in a few years, if things change, I'll get back to you, Tatiana.
Nah, that's real. That's good. Black belt.
I completely agree with what Pastor K said, where it needs to be, I think you said updated, correct? I just want to make sure. Updated, because I actually had an argument with one of my closest homeboys about this, where I told him, we were arguing basically, and this is what I think Harrison family gentleman was discussing. If the household makes $100,000 a year and she makes 50 and you make 50, and the house is going to basically go into poverty if she doesn't work. No. You can't get that old school traditional thing of her coming home and cleaning and cooking and I mean this is like my man's, and we were like, in a heated argument about this, and I basically told him, you ain't earned that privilege, bro. You ain't earned that privilege, in my view. So this is in a different way, but I do agree with Pastor K to where it needs to be updated. Because, for various reasons, but in this situation, because, most guys do need a woman's income. And, you can't say that foolishness of, her money don't matter. Oh, well, if you cool staying in a 1-bedroom apartment your whole life, which most guys can only afford, yeah, well then, but in reality, yeah, most guys need the woman's income if they want to elevate in life. I know that ain't popular, but it's just true. So things like that have to be updated for, I'd say at least 2/3 of the population. Yeah, I'd say at least 2/3 of men. That needs to be updated.
All right.
Especially when you bring in kids. That's just a wash, you bringing in kids like that. I don't see how you're going to have a stay-at-home woman if you're not basically in that top, I'd say 5% at around $200,000 or more, and you better not be living in like New York or Chicago. You better be basically living in the South, not Florida. You may be living in the South and the Midwest, again, not Chicago and not Florida, and that's like the bare minimum 200. If you're talking about having a stay-at-home wife with what's I think 2.5 kids, and again, she ain't gonna be fine with you staying in a 3-bedroom apartment. So here comes the house. So I can't see it, and I'm a financial guy. I don't see how you're gonna make this work.
All right, Asia, what's your take on Tatiana's question?
So I definitely agree with both. Everybody said, the last three people that spoke, and I definitely agree with what Dojo just said, that most men do need the woman's income. And I was just over here saying, and that's okay. Like, and I think that's fine. If two incomes are needed to run that house, then those two incomes are okay. I think it just kind of goes back to my point that I said earlier. I'm really a big fan, and to answer Tatiana's question, of just seasonal gender roles. In some seasons, I may be able to handle all the cooking and cleaning, and it's not, too much on me after I worked, after I did what I did. I can still cook, clean, and be of service in that way. But in another season, I might be wore out from business. I might be wore out from kids. So I might have to call the cleaning lady or hire some outside people to prepare some meals. So I think that needs to be more normalized in my life, and being with someone that's okay with, as long as it's getting done. It may not be me getting it done, but as long as it's getting done, and as long as that household is being taken care of and ran properly, whether I vacuum the carpet or my cleaning lady vacuum the carpet, as long as you coming home to a clean house, I think that's what's most important. So being with somebody that just values that, like a resourceful woman, because I think when I hear that, I'm thinking like, oh, that woman resourceful. She's still gonna create that home for that man, her man, and making sure that it's a peaceful environment, but she just may need a little help, and him being okay with that is very important to me. So I would prefer a man to normalize that, me getting help like that Proverbs 31 woman did when needed, my opinion.
Okay, so before I come to CEO really quickly, I know we're approaching 9 o'clock. Did anybody have to hop off exactly at 9, or are you guys good to go over a little bit? Because I'm pretty sure we'll keep going. Yes, Amanda.
I do need to. I have some plans for the rest of the night, so I
That
do have to hop off.
that's totally fine. With that being said, I want to give you the opportunity in the next few minutes to just share your last or your closing words, and then definitely let everybody know where they can get in touch with you at.
Yeah, right now.
Yes, please.
Yeah, closing words. I don't know. I think that from what I've gathered actually from this conversation, that's been the most eye-opening for me, is that there's so much I don't know. And there's so much that I do think is so nuanced and relative to all of us. But what I love is the love. I think at the root of it, is so much love to be had out there, and these conversations that we are having right now and that we've had these last few hours, I do think is the step in the direction of love, and that's and the right to real love, right? So mission accomplished.
Yes.
And
Yes.
as far as where to reach me, I do have a YouTube channel. It's Amanda Awakens, the same as my username here. And that's actually where you can reach me. I don't have any other social media platforms, just for mental health preservation. But this is my dominant platform, and I'm very active on here. And I welcome any and all people who are for uplifting, supporting, and unconditionally loving Black women. So please, if you're for that, then you're for me, and I'm for you, and I can't wait to see you.
Yes. Yo, Amanda, thank you so much for joining us this evening. It's truly been an honor and a pleasure having you on the show. Absolutely amazing. So many great things that you share with us tonight, and definitely will be in touch with you. But enjoy the rest of your evening, and thank you so much for joining us on the show tonight. So, did anybody else have to go, or is everybody else good to go over maybe a little bit more?
See,
Pastor K?
I'm gonna show you how this balance works in this marriage. I'm gonna text my wife, make sure she got the kids together. We're
That's
gonna be
real.
good. We'll be gonna be like, look, I'm in this conversation. Watch this balance.
No doubt, man.
If she say no, then I'm gonna have to holler,
Most definitely, man. Definitely let me know how she answers, and we'll proceed accordingly. But with that in mind, I think everybody else is good to go. So, CEO, coming down to you. What's your take on Tatiana's question?
Well, since I'm always at the end of the question, I got to hear the question all over again because my thoughts are all over the place.
So, Tatiana, what's the question? I believe it's do Well, no, Tatiana, I give you the floor to ask the question again.
Yeah, no problem. I was asking, is there a need to modernize traditional gender roles?
Yes, I think so. Just as life just continues to evolve, everything in life evolves, and as life evolves, as life evolves and you grow, then the defined relationship roles need to grow. Because if you marry somebody at 25, the needs that you have at 25 might be different than the needs that you have at 30, or the needs that you have at 35 or 40. Now you can't, you don't have a crystal ball to see what those needs are, because they could be an array of things, whether it's financially, emotionally, medically, things of that nature that you have to adjust to make sure that those needs are met, that your relationship, as far as the path that it's on, it doesn't hit a bump or have a hiccup or anything of that nature. So yeah, I think, like, just like, we've gone from it just being a man and a woman to there being, binary and non-binary, which has just happened as the evolution of society and mankind. Then yeah, you have to adjust, or you'll just be left behind, and you'll be left behind asking questions and trying to figure out where you were left, and if you have enough time and enough resources and mental capability to actually try to catch up.
All right. Okay. So as we close things out, I want to go back. I'm a man of my word, right? I told Nicole that we would come back to her question. And I think this is a perfect question to close out the show, which is, how do we get both genders on the same page? So coming up to you, Asia, definitely let us know your thoughts on this question, and let people know how they can get in contact with you as well after you've answered the question.
Sure. Sure. So, how do we get both sexes on the same page? I think the number one thing is knowing that we're not in competition with each other, right? Like, it's not a competition of man versus woman. We're on the same team. We're wanting the same thing. We both want to be served, just in different ways. The man is not my competition, and I'm not his competition. So, I think that that will help us get on the same page, knowing that we're in this together. Like, this is not I know the world is saying man versus woman, but it's just us versus the world, right? Like, us versus them, and that's it. So I think that that's how we can get on the same page. And people can follow me on Instagram at Asia Say What with two T's. And if you like to read, of course, I have two books that you guys can get. As always, when I'm on the show, I say if you buy one, you can get the other one free, just for y'all. Just for y'all. So I have a book called Kill from Comparing. I released that one last year, and it's basically about comparisons and the importance of not comparing yourself. Imagine taking a gun and shooting your purpose every time you compare yourself to other people. So that's what I discussed in that one. And of course, my first book, Dirty Virgin. And y'all just gonna have to see who the dirty virgin is that I'm talking about. But it's talking about how purity is more than just a sexual thing. Just because you're abstaining does not make you pure. So that's it. And I'm just excited to always come on here and talk with y'all. Y'all have the best discussions. And I'm also happy to speak with CEO, Dojo, and Pastor Ken as well.
Oh man, thank you so much, Asia. It's such an honor having you come back on and join us on this show. Coming down to my man CEO, I'm not gonna make you last, bro. I promise you, man. Coming down to you, man. What's your take on the question that Tiffany asked? How can both men and women get on the same page, bro?
I think constant communication is key. And realizing that we're a team, and we have a common goal. We have common goals, we have common enemies. Like, I'm not here to compete against you, to take you out, to lord over you, and vice versa. So I think that's how individuals can get on the same page. As far as how to get in contact with me, Mr. CEO Status on Instagram, same thing on TikTok. Much love to all the panelists that are still here, and the ones that were here earlier, and to everybody in the chat. And I definitely appreciate it. And until we meet again, I look forward to it.
Oh yeah, thank you so much for joining us again, CEO. It's always truly a pleasure having you come on. And I'm gonna just go across the board. So coming over to you, Pastor Ken, or excuse me, Pastor K. What exactly would you say needs to be done in order to put men and women on the same page?
Well, I think before men and women can get on the same page, we got to get in the same book. We're not even in the same book. You said I'm in a whole nother book. Then that's what's happening with these relationships. We trying to get on the same page. We in different books. We might not even be in the same library. You on Wikipedia, I'm on Google. We got problems. You know what I'm saying? So I think we have to define the concept between the man and the woman, or the couple have to both have the same concept of what marriage or relationship is. They have to have the same philosophy on financial wealth, generational wealth. You know, you have to have some things in common, you know, before we just, oh, you look good, I look good, we'll make good babies. Okay, well, plenty of people have made good babies and broke. They got pretty kids and they're hungry. You know, so I think, you know, just to sum it up, you know, we have to get in the same book first. Then we can work on getting on the same page. And that all comes with, you know, a form of communication. You know, so, but that's my mindset on that. You can connect with me on Instagram at I am Kenton Wiley. Also, my wife and I, we have a virtual ministry we just launched last summer, Never Alone Christian Ministry. And you can connect with me there. I have several books on Amazon. You can feel free just to search my name and they're on there. One that I think that would be applicable to this conversation tonight is communication. You know, we barely talk anymore. It's some 10 principles on how I was able to communicate with my wife after losing our house for making bad financial decisions. I had to get our communication back together to keep our marriage together. You know, so I know what it's like to be down in the valley and to get back up the hill. And I know the only reason that we survived that situation, we're able to move on down the road because, you know, we were able to communicate through those particular struggles.
Oh man, thank you so much, Pastor K. Such an honor and a joy, yo. You've been dropping gems and golden nuggets, as have all of our panelists tonight. And we're so grateful to have had you join us on the live show tonight. So thank you so much for that,
Thank
man.
you.
Truly appreciate it. Yeah, and once again, happy birthday, man. Yo, birthday, man. Yo, yes. And
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Oh man, such an honor, man. I appreciate you for hanging out with us on your B-Day, man. Like that means a lot, man. I truly appreciate you, bro. And my man Black Belt, man, what's your take to Nicole's question? How can we get on the same page, or as Pastor K was saying, get in the same book?
You know, I actually want to take a bit from both Asia and Pastor K.
Okay.
Where for Asia, I completely agree. I say it differently, but I completely agree with her. Where I say, like, you know, I say we're not equals because I'm a right hand and she's a left hand. So, you know, we're supposed to come together and start picking things up, you know, picking up heavier things together. We're not supposed to be, like Asia says, competing against each other. We have different functions. We have different responsibilities. We have different, I guess, for the whole topic, different roles. And for what Pastor K said, I would say you basically, are we even on the same page? People, we got to actually think through what you want and be honest about it. Actually think this through. Don't just say, I want to have kids. Okay, what type of lifestyle do you want your kids to live? What type of lifestyle do you want to live while married? A lot of people don't realize this until after the kids. Oh, the money was great when it was just her and I, or, you know, her and I, or him and I. And then 2 kids come, you like, oh, why are we struggling at the end of every month? So have it fully fleshed out and thought through. And I would say you got to have a purpose on what you're doing out here, especially when it comes to relationships. I mean, really life, but especially relationships. I've heard someone say this a while ago. I thought it was unbelievably deep. He said that you got to have a purpose out here because you're going to run into someone with a purpose and you may not be able to recover from it. And I thought it was just, I mean, that wasn't a bar. It was just something like just that blew my mind. I never thought of it that way. Where, you know, like I said, everyone talks about have a purpose. You know, well, you might run into someone with a purpose. And like I say, if you don't know what you're doing, you're just over here lackadaisically, you know, walking around smelling the sunflowers in the air. You got to just hope that person's purpose is to your benefit. So I pretty much would say you got to have a purpose, but you got to be honest. And like I said, we're not competing against each other. There is no, I mean, we're trying to win. It's I think he mentioned maybe gone, but someone said some people aren't team players. Was that you, Pastor K? I'm tripping. Or am I? Yeah. Some people should just play golf. Some people should just play bowling.
They need to be in golf, bowling, tennis, skee
Yeah.
ball. They need to get off the basketball team because
Right.
they're not team players.
Right. So I mean, and that's not even a problem, but you got to know what are you? You know, like what are you? So, and how do you reach me? You can't. Took down the channel because some weirdo tried to dox me. But you can still reach back out. You can still reach out to me. Black belt in the black suit. Oh yeah, he tried to call my employer talking about something. I call him a weak man, which I pretty much explained to my boss. He's like, oh yeah, he was weak for trying to dox you. But anywho, yeah. So but you can still hit me up on black belt in the black suit at gmail.com. The page is still there, just no videos. And I will pop up on your live.
That Kevin Samuels power. You got that Kevin Samuels power calling people weak out here.
Well, yeah. Well, we're getting there. We're getting there. But yes, definitely hit me up in the email. I will, and Jay knows I'll pop up. And I want to give a shout out. You said Asia, you said beloved G's your sister. I need to Jay.
Yes, that's my older sister.
I need you to invite her up here. You know how I be clapping at people in the chat. She started going back at me. I couldn't keep up.
I'm gonna do a introduction. I am. Yeah.
Yeah. I like her. Tell her I need to have a conversation with her. I couldn't keep up with her. She was going too fast.
Black belt already met a match, man.
She was going too fast, Jay. I couldn't keep up.
Yo, she was dropping gems like that throughout the whole show, man. I appreciate beloved G for joining us. Thank you again. Shout out to you, Asia. We appreciate you for inviting your sister to tune in and join us as well, man. So thank you. And Black Belt, man, always a pleasure having you join us on the panel, man. I appreciate you for joining us tonight. And as you always do, man, dropping bars, golden nuggets, gems all over the place. So, man, thank you so much for that. And Tatiana, coming over to you. What's your response to Nicole's question? How can men and women get on the same page?
I think we both have, as men and women, need to share and celebrate the benefits of tradition for the modern person, like, and really dispel those myths by sharing like the benefits of marriage in general and the benefits of the roles in the relationship. Because again, it goes back to what I was saying from the beginning. A lot of us are just in echo chambers where we're hearing all these negative things, but what are the positives? How can we combat that? If it's working for a good number of people, something's working. So we need to be like hearing those perspectives to dispel the myths that people have created in their minds to keep them from possibly benefiting from a traditional relationship versus them trying to fight the culture because of, for whatever reason, they just need to have it a certain way because that's the trend.
All right. And definitely let them know how they can get in contact and show you love and support.
Absolutely. So I'm Bliss for Singles, Black Love and Inspiration for Save Singles. And it's the same on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And we also have a blog that's been up for 10 years now. It's blissforsingles.com. And we just love to talk about these relationship topics. So it's been great to connect with Jay in this way, not only on his podcast before, but through this platform for the last several months.
Oh, yeah, it's definitely been an honor. I just want to thank all of our panelists tonight, yo. Those who have already left, those are you who are still here, who rode with us to the end. I have enjoyed it so much. And before we go, I just want to let everybody know that it has been such an amazing ride doing this show. And I just want to let y'all know that this month is actually going to be the last time that we'll be doing the live shows. I'm actually going to be putting my focus on to my business podcast, Why We Succeed. I'm bringing it up really shortly. And I want to let you know, we got some amazing shows lined up for the rest of April. So definitely make sure y'all come back next week, come back the following Tuesday. CEO and Black Belt will definitely be joining us on some of those shows. So you get to see them and some other amazing guests. But I am just going to be going headstrong into the entrepreneurial space and helping to develop more Black entrepreneurs into starting their own profitable online businesses. And that's one of the main things that Why We Succeed is going to be focused on. And I'm excited for that journey. And I definitely have had such a fun time doing this live show for the past almost 6 months, rocking out with you guys. And I just want to thank you all for your continued support, all of our panelists, all of the guests that have been on the show, as well as all of my chat mates and everybody that have been tuning in. But yeah, it's been fun. I hope you guys enjoyed tonight's show. And I just want to thank all of my guests again for you guys coming on and being a part of tonight's show. And we'll catch you guys next Tuesday, same time, 7 p.m. Eastern time, for another Right to Real Love live show. Until then, you guys have an amazing and very blessed evening. We'll catch you guys next week. All right.